Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. No battle cries today. Today, I want to look at the incredible upcoming RPG developer, Bakin. Good morning, everybody. Whether or not you've made it to the very beginning of the live stream, I am AmalgamAsh. I look at different video game engines, features of these engines, games made on these engines. And today, I'm going to be looking at the publicly available information for RPG developer Bakin. That includes everything on the Steam and Facebook pages. When I say everything, I am going to make sure I have sort of a backwards cutoff point. I'm not going to go back to the beginning. I'm just going to look at the recent developments. And I'm going to visit the Steam discussions and provide answers to some of the questions, hopefully, that I see there, because a lot of questions are being asked about the software, and a lot of the information that answers those questions is already available, or at least is available now. And hopefully those questions were already answered by SmileBoom. They've done a fantastic job of maintaining communication and educating people about this upcoming software. So, the first thing I wanted to look at was the actual Steam page announcing the early access, and I'm just going to shrink myself down. And we're looking at what is posted now on Steam. How did we get here? This is the, what is this? I think if you go to the community page or the discussions page, this should be the first thing you see for Bakin. And I'm just going to read it verbatim because it is significant. It is important. October 3rd, 2022, early access for Bakin will begin. And that is when we can get it. Hello, everyone. From SmileBoom, thank you for your patience. We have decided to launch early access for RPG developer Bakin on October 3rd, 2022. That's PDT, Pacific Daylight Time. Along with the announcement of the release date, we will also be releasing the following 2 pieces of information. Early purchase discounts and discounts for Smile Game Builder users. A 10% discount will be offered as an early purchase benefit to those who purchase within 7 days of the early access launch. During this period, owners of Smile Game Builder, the previous title in the RPG developer Bakin, will also receive a 10% discount off from the early purchase price. That is equivalent to 19% off the purchase price, which means they're both probably just a little bit under 10, or they're rounding down instead of it being 20. So if you are a current owner of SGB and you buy RPG developer Bakin during its early access period, you will get almost a fifth of the price off. And if you don't have Smile Game Builder because you're new to this party and you're waiting for Bakin to come out, that's not a bad decision. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to zoom this page in so it's a little bit easier for everybody to see. Display capture. I just want it to be legible. So there we go. Zoomed in. If you're waiting for Bakin, you don't have SGB yet, that makes sense to me. I think that's a fine decision if you're just trying to get what SGB already is, but in its new level up form. Hold on. But I will say SGB is a complete software. It's done. Bakin will be going into early access, so there may be things about Bakin that aren't done yet per se. Even though the functionality in SGB is definitely there for a given feature in Bakin, they might have extra things that they're trying to do, extra features that they're trying to build around certain elements of the program. And that might mean that that specific thing that you can do easily in Smile Game Builder isn't done and polished in Bakin in its leveled up form yet, if that makes sense. So, I have a very dry throat this morning. Hold on. So, saying that, I guess what I'm really saying is if you get the chance to purchase SGB when it gets deeply discounted, I would absolutely jump on it, even if you already have Bakin, because there will doubtless be things, at least for the first little while, that SGB will be able to do that Bakin won't. And I don't necessarily mean combat-wise, graphic-wise, asset-wise, event-wise, any of that, but rather platforms upon which you can export your game. If you absolutely have to have a certain build or a certain platform for your game to go on, Bakin, I don't know if they'll be able to handle that just yet. If you've got the time to wait, though, there's no doubt in my mind, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that Bakin will have all of the features of SGB. Despite that, SmileBoom is still supporting Smile Game Builder, so even after Bakin comes out, they'll probably continue to add things like bug fixes and features to Smile Game Builder. They may even be better able to do this with Bakin's release, because it's more money, it's more of a cash flow. It probably provides for them better workflows. So anyways, I'm definitely going to be getting this day one, and you can expect a ton of content from me on this engine day one. But we'll continue to read the early access blog. You can export the assets included in Smile Game Builder and its DLC and import them into RPG Developer Bakin for your use. So if you have Smile Game Builder, that's another good reason to have SGB, because of the DLC. So if it goes into deep discount where it's like $13 because it's 80% off, to me, getting the DLC at the same time while it's all discounted is definitely worth it. $5 to me may not be $5 to the next person, may not be $5 to the next person. But if you can, if it's about game development assets and trying to get as many as possible to jumpstart your development processes, I say get the DLC, because there is a ton there. And if there's any of it that you absolutely don't want, it's all sectioned off pretty well in themes. You've got your modern city pack. You've got a Japanese, like a feudal Japan pack. You've got these crazy Wonderland packs. And then if you are looking for more of a high poly third party asset pack, Jackson Mara still distributes asset packs for use with Smile Game Builder, and he's got a ton of them. I mean, he has a ton. Assets.sgb.itch.io is where you can get all of that stuff. He's got a sci-fi city. He just has an absolute ton. And all of these are things that you can edit in Blender for free, or you can just edit the texture files in a program like paint.net or whatever comes with your PC. And you can do all this for free, and you can make your own textures and models and stuff to give yourself even more options. And that's really the second reason that I would recommend getting all the DLC, so you have this springboard of assets that you can customize and make your own for your game. So anyways, there's a lot of value right there from the very beginning if you have our SGB and if you have its assets, because they'll import into RPG Developer Bakin. So in addition to that, 3 asset DLCs that expand the possibilities of game creation are available for sale at the same time as the early access launch. The following 3 DLCs and a bundle of these 3 DLCs with Bakin will be available at the same time. There is the Western Pack. This is a pack of building parts and interior decorations that can create the world of the Western world. A set of 6 gun models and a locomotive will also be included. There are 283 models and parts for exterior, interior, plants, etc., and variations for some models. 101 variations total. It comes with 16 prefabs that combine parts and 8 sample maps that place them together. 8 maps. So you have no excuse not to make your Wild West game. That's great. I'm looking forward to that. Ancient pack. This is probably the one I look forward to the most. Just besides the default medieval, typical fantasy assets that are doubtless to come with Bakin. This pack includes building parts, interior decorations, and plants that can create mysterious spaces with ancient-style architecture, such as a masonry temple or a mysterious altar. There are 118 models and parts for exterior, interior, plants, etc., and variations for some models, 18 total. 6 sample maps using these data are also included. You can see from the thumbnail here, which I can't regrettably make any bigger, they've got this pyramid with the light shooting out of the top, stairs leading up to the top part, lit by these intense braziers. Off to the side, we've got ropes and bridges connecting this sort of island to these smaller islands, which are what look to me to be set up, raised, waterfalls cascading off of the edges. And all throughout the scene, we seem to have this firefly effect. So there's a lot here. We've got some bloom, some depth of field. It's a very interesting sort of, I don't know what region to call these trees. Very wiry, very, if you put enough of them together, sparse and jungly. That's a lot to look forward to. And the last one, the Modern City Pack. And this thumbnail looks amazing if you're an SGB user looking at this. This pack contains a total of 117 models, including structures such as buildings and stores that can reproduce modern cityscapes and lifestyles, parts to reproduce district scenery such as cars and vending machines, and interior models such as home appliances and sofas. 7 sample maps are included. The Modern City Pack is a set of models and sample maps created to improve the roughness and quality of surfaces by adding normal and mask maps to the Modern City Pack sold as DLC in Smile Game Builder. So there you have it. They are saying that this is basically the same pack as the city pack that's sold for Smile Game Builder. It's a pack that you likely already have, but they have models and sample maps that are put together to, when they say improve the roughness and quality of surfaces by adding normal and mask maps, they're talking about they have taken additional texture files and created them for the various models present in this pack, because Smile Game Builder does not support a lot of the different maps, texture maps. It takes a little bit of just a rudimentary knowledge of 3D to get this explained. But if you've got no idea what I'm talking about, you basically have your 3D object, which let's explain this for anybody who's interested. Anybody just coming into this sort of industry who is getting away from the 2D RPG making tools, you're going to have a 3D object. You may have an object that looks like this. Now, this controller, it's got light shining off of it. That's light from my ring lights, from the light up above. You can see it has a sort of glossy sheen to it, and that light seems to travel across the surface when I move the object, when I translate its position, when I rotate its position. And if I scale its position, it's going to have its light properties altered constantly in real time. The sort of materials that you can use in Smile Game Builder do not support that sort of lighting. Sure, you can light something up, but it's ambient light. So you'll see the object because you need light to see, but you're not going to have that glossiness. You're not going to have reflection. You're not going to have what they call specularity. So As another example, I have here the plastic screw cover that came off of my chair, and it's got a roughness to it. Now, you can recreate this roughness because it was just molded that way. It's just plastic. You can recreate that roughness by drawing it into what we call the texture map, because you have your 3D model, but it's naked. It doesn't really have a form. It just has a structure that's invisible. It's not until you apply a texture map that it actually gets its visibility to the viewer when we're talking about video games and 3D modeling. So you could easily draw this texture in a paint program and apply it to a model that looks like this, and then you would get that. However, in real life, light is going to play off of this rough surface, and it's very easy to see the differences between light that is playing off of an actual textured surface and a drawn surface. Some artists, I'm not going to knock, some artists are really, really good at drawing on flat surfaces. In particular, there's some sidewalk artists that I've seen that make it look like you're about to walk into a hole, and they've drawn everything around what would be the inside of the hole on this flat surface to give you this illusion of depth. And they've taken light into consideration, and it works perfectly until you move towards it. And then that perspective becomes very askew because it stays the same, whereas your perspective would be shifting as you were looking down into a real hole. So it's kind of the same concept. The way that we would get this rough texture in a 3D program or a video game to be more accurate, to be more precise, is we would apply a special 2D map to this surface. And that 2D map is going to have data on it. And when I say 2D map, I just mean an image. I just mean a flat image, the kind that you would make drawing in paint, or perhaps a photograph. Those are flat images. And a map is really no different, except it has information in the form of colors all across it. And that information for something like this, it might look a lot like this texture does, but it would be reduced to just a few different colors. So you might have, if it's a grayscale map, that's supposed to tell the program what kind of roughness this is going to have. We might call that a bump or a normal map, depending on the context and what we're doing exactly, what we're trying to achieve. But we'll basically, for every raised point on this rough plastic, terrible example, screw cover, we'll have a dark pixel, a dark color in that exact precise spot. So the image will be covered in these dark colors. But then for every part of that that's recessed and we'll have more shadow, we'll have a white pixel or white color. So your resultant image will look a bit staticky. It won't look like it makes much sense, but when you apply it to the model, you will have a rough texture, because now your light in your program is going to play off of that texture map. It's going to apply how the light would look across each and every single pixel of the texture map on the 3D model. And as you move around, it's that map that updates the lighting, the resultant lighting that you see on the model, as well as the other maps that are applied to the model, because you can apply several at the same time. They're all going to be visible at the same time. You've got specular maps, which will demonstrate an object's shininess. You've got roughness, and this is so that we can replicate textures. I say textures or materials like metal or wood or brick or glass or even water or slime, fabricated materials, skin. You want to have you will probably have several different maps for any given object if you're wanting that object to be replicated faithfully. Now, if you're just a beginning and you have no idea how to do any of this or what to look for or anything, you'll be able to take a DLC pack like this. And when you dig into the folders and you look at the files for all of this stuff, you will see a model for the car. You see the car is in the thumbnail. And then you'll see 2 or 3 image files. One image file will look like this car has been unfolded into a flat shape. That's the texture map. That is the map that's applying the image file of the car around this 3D model, which would otherwise be invisible. And then the other ones will be the presumably specular map. This specular map was the second one that I ever learned about. So to me, that would be the one that would give you that embossed, that shininess. It's just saying, hey, here's where light plays off and where light doesn't play off if it's just one model with one texture file. You can have reflective maps for things like mirrors, and in the case of this car, if the engine supports reflective mapping, you would have the exact same fold out of the car, but instead of being able to see the car, you would just see where the windows were, and you would see, like I was explaining about the points and recesses in this plastic knob, you would just see solid colors in those spots, and that would tell the program, hey, this is where your reflection's going to be. All of this stuff is set in Blender or another 3D program of your choice, as long as it's all supported, and it all gets its information put into the model file when it gets exported as that model file. So if it has these files to begin with, you can kind of change them, and you can look back in the engine to see what kind of changes you made in order to learn about this stuff. But I don't know if you'd be able to just make a brand new one and put it in the same folder and go back to the engine, because the model doesn't know to look for that file. So anyways, back to the reveals that we've seen. Companion Wolf listening and watching in the background. Welcome and good morning from Midwestern USA. It's great to have you. We're looking at all of the publicly available information for Bakin, which is something that I've wanted to do on the channel for a while. Every time I thought, ooh, I'll make a video about that, SmileBoom would literally come out with even more information. And I'm like, my God, if I make a video, I'm just going to be behind. So I thought, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to do a live stream and look at all of this stuff one after another. So we are ready to move on. That's all for today's news, they said. Of course, this is pretty old now by top of the minute updated news. So we're going to finish reading this article and then move on to the next one. We could not have reached this announcement without your enthusiastic support. Although it is nearing release, Bakin is still a tool with room for improvement. We look forward to continuing to work with you to evolve the tool. Thank you for your continued support until after it's released. Yes. So, moving on, we're actually looking at their YouTube channel here. Everything seems to be displaying well. You can see the address in the top if you wanted to watch this exact video, but it'd be much easier just to search RPG Developer Bakin on YouTube. And this video is called RPG Developer Bakin, How to Make a Room Map. Now, we're not going to watch this whole video as it is, but I will start it and see if I can recognize kind of the process. We have a much more complex user interface. It's the same user interface, but there's so many more options now as SGB. So the process seems to be the same, selecting an area and then raising it for walls. You'll make a terrain stamp. Okay, hey, we get to look at exactly what I was talking about. So they are showing us images that illustrate the top and the sides of the terrain. If you use Smile Game Builder, these won't be new to you, but if you're brand new to Bakin, this will be important. Where my mouse is the top of the tile. This is going to be visible if you leave it flat. Wait a minute. It's not right. These look different than... Hold on a second. This tile on the left, called the Albedo Map. I've heard it pronounced Albedo. The guy that said Albedo had a very heavy Jersey accent. I'll probably just say both interchangeably. Don't make fun of me. The Albedo Map. This is what the user is going to see. This is what they're going to see. And it's separated into sections based on the height of the tile in your map. So they'll always see one part of it when it's flat. As you raise it, they'll be able to see the center portion, which makes up the walls of that tile. So when you've got it raised up and then you're test playing, looking at it in first person view, you can't see that top anymore. Now you're looking at the wall. And the bottom portion, you can specify a different part for when the wall is tall enough to have this next portion. But the Albedo map is what the player is actually going to see. They describe it by saying the so-called base color, and that's consistent. What they call a normal map will add the sense of roughness. This is the same as what I was describing with my plastic piece that I showed. This just looks like the same thing, but purplish, violetish. But really, the color has meaning. The color is significant. The colors here mean, hey, program, please take the bluish edges of each of what look like bricks and make sure that shadows fall into those corners. And then for the lighter, for the purple areas that are up top, we're going to treat those as more uniform. This is the amount of kind of light that can fall on each and every one of the pixels on the texture map. Lots more to cover yet. Oh yes, oh yes. A ridiculous amount to cover. Variardian, hello. Good morning. Good morning, Very. Nice to have you here. Welcome. We're covering RPG developer Bakin. All of the publicly known information about it so far. We're going to look at the Steam forums and check out the questions there, see if we can't provide any answers, and shout out to people that I might recognize. And hopefully stay away from some of the ruder, more negative comments that I've seen that have absolutely no place there. I believe it's Albedo. Okay, Albedo. I don't trust the New York accent, but it's probably correct then. How to get Bakin? Its early access is available on Steam October 3rd. It's coming. It is coming fast. It is coming fast. So we've got the normal map, which adds a sense of roughness, and the mask map, which adds a surface texture. All three of these can be used, but you don't have to use a normal and mask map. You can just use the albedo and leave it as that. You just won't have that same light play, that same luminescence reaction, rather, to the lights on your map. So continue the video. And what I'll probably do, if 3 images are placed in the same folder, they'll all be imported at once. Good. Lovely. This actually needs to be moved just a tad bit. There we go. Replace the walls with the terrain stamp you created. Okay, that brick, I was confused about the bottommost part of that tile. Because to me, it looked like something that you would be stepping on. So I was refraining from trying to describe that, but it actually is part of the verticality on the wall. It's just at the bottom, which is how it is in SGBs. I should have known, but it did give me pause to look at it. So now they're placing windows and furniture, and their window has built-in light. And they're just throwing down display pieces. You're able to move objects more than one at a time. You can kind of group them up and move them simultaneously. You can play with the scale. You can immediately scale objects freely. So if you've got a certain scale that you're going for, a certain size, you don't have to worry about exporting and re-importing after changing the size in a 3D program. You can just do it in Smile Game Builder, which means that you can make any asset work with any character pack that you might have. As long as the styles look consistent, you no longer have to worry about scale. Now they've thrown down a rug and they've freely rotated it. They're not limited to 90-degree rotations, which to me, this is the world. This is how you make an engine that automatically out of the gate provides usefulness for so many more use cases than those engines where you're stuck with 90-degree tiles. This room looks like a PlayStation 2 RPG room immediately. And there's stuff in here that breaks through the limitations of the PS2. So it's really more of a PS3 room. And they are rushing through this. Normal maps encode normals in object space, so the RGB components correspond directly to the XYZ coordinates, hence giving that roughness for textures to pop. Details like bricks and wood. You can take each object and set it directly on top of another. You can stack these babies, and it's effortless. You don't have to play around with the collision settings. You just throw it down. I saw that the user is able to place objects through other objects, so that's very handy. If you need to piecemeal or patchwork together an object or a series of objects to make an item. And speaking of patchwork want. Good morning, Patchy. Thank you for joining. Lovely to have you. Very apt use of the terminology, I would say. And more examples of things just being freely placed. The position is not locked. The scale's not locked. The rotate's not locked. Banana. Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. Truer words were never spoken. It's just here. If you are a player of The Sims, you're going to have a field day. You're going to have a field month or 6 months with this thing, doing nothing but designing maps. This is a skill. This room is beautiful. This is a skill that you could learn and sell. You could sell your map making services when you have tools that allow you to be this precise. Look at that. You could take the sun rays and just get them positioned where they come in right through the window. I have a confession. I have not watched this video before. I saw the video, but I wanted to cover it, so I never watched it. I kind of wanted to have that reaction to it. Okay, so they've placed 2 rays through the window. Really just images with transparency. But it's amazing that we get that. As far as I'm concerned, this room is done. How much more do they have to go? They're only halfway through the video. We're going to speed this thing up. 2x speed. The final step. Oh, you can change the atmosphere by simply selecting a preset. Okay, so that just changes the back. This program has my heart going doki doki, and I don't know what that means. A variety of, oh god, the lighting options. You can be so precise with lighting and ambient colors now. You can set shadow angles, shadow intensity. It's almost like you have access to lookup tables. SSAO exposure settings, they've gone all out. They've basically just given you everything that they are able to give you. Like, oh, and you can place the actual light sources in addition to all of that. So not only did they put the God rays in through the window, they're going to give it a real light source. They're putting one on the other end of the room. Color of the light, the range of influence, and the intensity can be specified. Yes, I would expect no less. Spotlights as well as point lights can be placed. Lovely. The difference being objects can be either lit from a very particular point, like from that window and how it's lighting that table. Oh, that was lovely. There's an introduction trailer for the model DLC. I didn't see this. I didn't see this either. We're going to take a quick look at this. It's only 2 minutes. Here's the Western pack that I was talking about. And they've got some of their 2D asset characters. Well, I see one, but kind of combining that to show you what that looks like. Look at these beautiful maps. Beautiful maps that come with this asset pack. So all you have to do is just rearrange things if you want and make different configurations while you're learning how to get comfortable with the map building workflow that you'll create. Whoa. And then the Modern City pack. Why do we have a skeleton man walking through? That's not important. I think he's looking for survivors. I think he's looking for patchwork. Oh, that's a beautiful room. He was just going home after a pleasant stroll out on the town. He was just returning to his lovely apartment. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so the next thing I wanted to look at, next thing I have a tab prepared for. When you say God Rays, I keep hearing the choir part from Gangster's Paradise and our case, Game Developer's Paradise. Next part is the Steam. What is this? For the Steam discussions or community tab for Bakin, talking about introducing the layout tool and sub-graphics. Introducing the layout tool, which allows you to change the style of in-game screens and menus, and the sub-graphics. I played with a tool that was like this in another engine. Not RPG Maker. Another engine that gives you pretty precise control over it, but the intuitiveness was just not there. Like, it was not clicking for me at all. The way that it was laid out was pretty bizarre. So I think Smile, with the experience that they have under their belt, they'll be able to do this in a way that makes a lot of sense. And in Smile Game Builder, we have the ability to place images on the screen using their tool, where we can just select exactly where we want it to go, X and Y positions, and see that preview in real time. So I'm hoping that we'll get the ability to see exactly where on the screen we get to place these individual elements, but this is one of the coolest features that you can have if you're trying to make a game that looks engine agnostic. Like, if you're not wanting people to see your game and think, oh, cool, it was made in that engine, which can be a stigma for some developers and some game reviewers for whatever reason, then being able to customize your UI is very important. This feature lets you change the graphic assets and layout of screens that appear throughout the game, including the title screen and game over screen, as well as the main menu and screens during battles. By using the layout tool, you can, for example, completely change the result screen of battles to match the style and atmosphere of the game you are creating. Yes! So here we have a sample battle screen. I'm actually going to try to zoom in on this. I can, so try isn't even really the operative word. I just am going to do it. Now, obviously, it's not like mandatory to do. You don't have to mess with it. But if you're ambitious and you're trying for that huge project, it's it means the world to be able to move away from the default assets that come with the engine. And one of the hardest things to do for a game engine developer, evidently, is give us that functionality to not have to use their default UI. But here it is. This is the what happens when you win a battle screen. We've got an example of how this could look. You've got your experience and money that you get, items that you get for winning the battle, who all has leveled up and what their stats are now. And if they've learned anything, here's what they've learned. Luna has learned Ice 2. It's a very good feature to have. You do have to mess with it. GA, thought I'd give us a look, not my usual thing. Welcome, GA, good morning. Good to have you. Yeah, we're looking at RPG developer Bakin, upcoming very soon. Game software allows you to make a game without having to know how to program. And game engines are great for people who want to make video games or, well, any kind of video game, not just RPGs. But they facilitate RPGs the most. RPGs are some of the hardest kinds of games to make because they have the most kinds of elements in them. But depending on the engine, they can also be very limited. A lot of them don't give you things to do for like action, quick time events, things like that, or physics. This one looks to be quite different in many different ways. It looks like it's going to be able to facilitate making a lot of different games. Where is my Star Ocean and Tactics battle system amalgam? We'll find out where those are. Area 77, welcome. I don't know if I welcomed you already, but welcome. Good morning. It can rock your world making an RPG game, especially a 3D game can be pretty cool. You got to program that goofy. Maybe. We'll see. I'm of the mind that this is probably going to have JRPG stuff by default. I know that people are asking for those battle systems, but I think that we will be able to make those battle systems and make them shareable. My hopes are pretty high on that point. So we're going to look at the next example of that battle screen by adding decorations to the parts. This is the exact same screen, or the exact same place where this screen would be, but now we've had changes made. So we can see Ken and Luna Ken's leveled up. Oh, Ken leveled up this time instead of Luna. Or actually, I don't know, Luna says until the next level 0. Maybe the level up is just in an awkward spot. I don't know. It could very well be a completely separate battle. But we've got, different items now. The items are down here. The money is over here. Your experience and level up details are here instead. And the UI just looks completely different. We've got a border around the flyout for Ken, detailing his parameter growth. Yeah, he leveled up. Need to look at the whole thing before I comment on it, don't I? So this is just another example of a way that you could design your UI for the end of battle screen. And then my favorite, the most dramatic of these 3 screens, very bold style, where you've got terminology here that's not mandatory. It was obviously put in just to give you this example. You can put whatever you want here. It says result, your experience in gold. You've got your profiles of the characters, and then you've got their sprites right in front of their profiles. You've got the things that they've learned popping up in their windows. If they've leveled up, it'll give you their parameters here. Everything is obviously layered. We have the items down here, the item tab that were won from the battle. Yeah, everything looks fantastic. Layout tool that can change the style of your game if you know how to use it. However, it is a feature that is closely intertwined with the game system and is frankly complex to use at this point. For example, to set an HP single HP gates, there's a wide range of settings to be made, such as the size and position, as well as the minimum, maximum, and initial values, which cast HP as referenced, the color of the gauge when the HP changes the color according to the reduction of HP, and so on. So the challenge is to make these things as easy to understand as possible with better visual expressions and UI. We will continue our efforts. We also believe that there's a lot of room for further development in terms of functionality. We appreciate your input to help us make it even better, so please do let us know what you think. So that's an important point, and one that I hope everybody has paid a lot of attention to and has taken to heart. They're working on this actively now, and it's important to give them feedback. You don't like a particular feature, I know that that feedback would be very much appreciated by them, or if you think a particular feature could be improved, that's even more useful. We're going to look at the subgraphics feature to create new stamps by combining parts. They're calling just about anything you can take and use as a cookie cutter to make graphics, to make assets visually for your game. They're calling that a stamp. So we've got objects in SGB. They would now call those stamps. This feature can combine models and particles into a single stamp, which is an object that could be placed on maps. For example, you can create several patterns of castles by combining parts of the castle walls, spires, flags, or you can make a small house or a large mansion by combining house foundations, roofs, windows, doors, balconies, etc. You can make a simmering pot by combining a pot with a smoke particle. So, some examples of how just these few parts can go together to make these different configurations. More than just these few parts are shown, but we're still looking at the same basic set of these parts for the house. We're seeing a lot of modularity here, which gives us way exponentially more customization over the assets we just can plop down on our maps, which means prototyping will now be like that, which means getting those first few minutes of test playing out there and your game available for others to try will be like that. I will be doing lots of tutorials on this, including layouts, as is and updated. Very good. Yeah, updated and as is, that's very important because it sounds like they're going to be hard at work, constantly updating, and we'll want to keep up with SmileBoom on this one. No more separate models for things like stacking barrels. No, and I've got my favorite thing, the thing that really lit a fire under me to make this video, stream this today, was the next thing I'm going to look at, which was, it's so good to look at. Area 77, yeah, I'll be doing the same. I'm definitely looking forward to all of that. I think we've got a solid foundation of people ready to make content and get this thing out there. We'll read the rest of this and we'll look at the part that got me really excited. You can also combine other models with moving objects, such as attaching a sword to a character or making smoke come out of a locomotive. Subgraphics is a useful feature that allows you to create various patterns by combining assets such as 2D, 3D particles. However, making a grand building with a single brick has the adverse effect of increasing the number of polygons used for the parts that cannot be seen from the surroundings where the bricks are connected together. In this case, it may be better to create a single building model. As for how much to separate the parts by, it depends on what you are making, so try it out. That's a very important point, and I'm very glad that they expressed that right there at the beginning. If you're making your house brick by brick, even though you're not going to be able to see every side of every brick, it's something your computer still sees. Your computer is still having to remember the positions of all of those bricks, and it is way more efficient to just have that house model where only the outsides are visible. And that sort of thing is something that you've got to think about while you're developing, and how much you find yourself building models out of modular parts, and exactly how complex those models are when you're building. So that sort of thing will be up to the developer by developer, but it is a very important point to consider. Something that I think deserves its own video about even different takes on that for sure. So the next thing I wanted to look at was, this was shared on Facebook, RPG developer Bakin on Facebook. And this is gonna be awesome. This right here is going to be so cool. So you've got your normal pen, which just draws or stamps these trees. But they also now have a random placement pen tool. And every tree that you set down would now have a slight variation in its scale, rotation upon its y-axis, in this case, what they're calling the y-axis, so that if you want to drop down a whole bunch of different models onto a map, such as trees for a forest, it will look way more organic than if you were to place the trees uniform. And this does seem to be a completely optional tool, so it's not something that you have to use if you're wanting that straightforward tiled look. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I do think that this makes it so much easier for those of us who might have a project every now and again where we don't want that tiled look. We want a forest that looks natural, that you can run through. We do see a little bit of the tile heights being pretty evident for this map. So that might be something to consider when thinking about what kinds of maps you'll be able to use with this or make with this engine. But right here, this was just extremely exciting to look at. You've got your objects you can sit down. They all look the same. And then you've got, boom, your random placement pen. Imagine if you just have 3 tree models and you're using the random placement pen to put down the layout to your forest. You will have so much variation in your forest, and it'll be not like difficult to tell, but if the player isn't even thinking to look for it, they're not going to be reminded or forced to look for that in any way. They'll just be going along marveling at your beautiful forest. I might add a jump button to my games when I get Bakin. Yeah, we want a jump button. That's one of the things too I wanted to look at, but I might have lost that link. A video in which the player seems to be just jumping in real time. It doesn't look like a combat, or it could be a cutscene, but I think the jump is real time. All right, so we've got a little bit of time left before I need to jump off and watch the Nintendo Direct, which is why I have to cut my stream short. But we're going to look at some of the threads on Steam. We're not going to look at the ones that have 0 responses. We'll look at the ones that have multiple responses, at least 1. And if you've got your own requests, you can feel free to search these boards and see if your request was already submitted, see if SmileBoom already has an answer for the question you haven't even asked, and see if there are other people kind of expressing interest together in what feature they would like to see. And then you can lend your voice to that instead of making another thread, and just show SmileBoom that, with solidarity, there's a lot of support for particular features. So here's one I want to look at: converting projects. I read that it's possible to convert projects from Smile to this one. Is that true? And if so, is a conversion more like a complete redo, where you take over only the assets and map layout, or is it a complete convert? What can we expect? And SmileBoom responded with, we can load SGB data, but it's not a complete conversion. Most of the event panels are compatible, so most of your events will be compatible, but the specifications for some features have changed significantly. It's very likely that the behavior will change between SGB and Bakin. For example, the camera system and variable management have different specifications from SGB. So if you're using these features, they will likely work differently in SGB and Bakin. We have not fully tested yet the compatibility issue, so we'll keep you informed as needed. That helps because you want to know what kind of variables, or what kind of events rather, are going to behave differently in a converted project. And it's good that they have at least that much information, but it was kind of obvious the camera system was going to be way different. So an event panel in SGB that might say what position you want your camera to be in, that's X, Y, Z, and where you want it to be facing. Your Bakin conversion might not be able to make a lot of sense for that with that event panel, or for that event panel in particular, it might convert it perfectly, but there are additional properties that can be used with that event panel. We have seen different field of view. We've seen like different, sort of the bokeh effect, blurred around the edges where the camera is focusing on something. That may be the result of a different event panel, or it might be ingrained into the camera control event panels. So when you use your SGB camera control panel, you might get sort of unwanted focus and things like that. So you might need to go in and adjust that for each of those event panels that use your cameras. And I can see that being kind of a hassle for a lot of folks, but they just don't know what kind of what the extent is, to what extent we would be needing to change our event panels or change the properties in existing panels. I think that's expected. I mean, that to me, that makes sense. I'm not going to read Bolly Hops. I'm not going there. Font format question, Ultima546. What format of fonts does Bakin support? You can use the fonts installed in your PC. The format is TrueType font or .ttf files. Converting projects, that one's in Japanese. Player avatars, 2D or 3D? Let's check this out. From the promotional videos, it looks like the player's avatar is in 2D pixel sprites. Will there be an option to use 3D? Also, will there be a tool to customize the 2D pixel sprites, like SGB's character editor? I think that question might have some confusion carried with it. Smile Game Builder's character editor was for 3D characters, not 2D. But the answer from SmileBoom: thank you for your question. Both 2D and 3D can be used for player and NPC graphics. Conversation scenes can be displayed in both 2D and 3D as well. At this time, we do not have a 2D character editor. Gamon asked, is it possible to customize the avatar camera, like focus on the face or focus on the whole body? I would say, although there was not an official answer given to that, you can do it in SGB, so I would say yes. Rather, with eventing, you could do that in SGB. I hope that in Bakin, it'll be more of a default option, default camera properties. And there's a follow-up question from Kitano, but it's not answered. When Bakin is available, either in early access or full release, will it be possible to export default sprite sheets as image files so we can draw our own sprites using the default sprites as a template? You can already do that in SGB, so I can't see why not, honestly. But it's possible that they haven't used that portion of SGB, so they may not know. 2, voice acting. Would we be capable of putting voice acting into the game? Something akin to the recently released Live Alive. Of course you could put voice acting in your game. You can do that in SGB. That would not be an engine feature. That would be something that you would do as a dev. You would just work that into your game. One question about map creation. Thank you for being a responsive team. Indeed. Thank you, SmileBoom. Thank you. Because of seeing you responsive and friendly to Steam users, I've decided to buy a copy, no matter yes or no to the following question. That's what's up. That's the way to be. Good person, Osakawa. Can we create a tunnel on the map with ease? It might not be a long, dark tunnel, letting player go from A to B. It might be a road under a bridge, and players of our game can cross it. SmileBoom said, thank you for the question. You can't dig a hole in the map, but you can create a tunnel in such a way that you can create a valley and cover it with an object. Of course, you can also take the path under the bridge. That's the best answer I could think of. This is amazing. I'm eager to have a copy and start my project. Next question. Next question about combat system, and it's got an award next to it. I am wondering, will it be possible to make open world like combat like Secret of Mana, or will it strictly be random encounters and turn-based? Also, it's programming free software, but will we be able to write our own code to modify it? SmileBoom, thank you for your question. The base system is random encounter turn-based, but it can be expressed in various ways, depending on the creator's ingenuity, including a symbol encountered system, which we've seen examples of, a lot of examples in SGB. I know Drasray likes what I'm thinking is the symbol encounter. Also, if you use C# scripting, you can create a more unique battle system. However, at the time of early access, the C# functionality is in beta. So just warning, they're just giving you a disclaimer, which you absolutely should be aware of that limitation. Keep your hopes high, keep your expectations low, and if there are any issues with what you're trying to get accomplished using the C# support, let them know, give them the feedback. I've got time with one more. Does the UI work with 3D character portraits and 3D gear previews? And SmileBoom said yes. It's possible to have the same representation as the game image you sent us as a sample. I can't see that. Oh, here. Yeah, I can. Here's what they have done in Unity before. I hope this is safe for work. Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love it. But yes, I see what they've done. They've taken a 2D image of their 3D character. It's just a screenshot of the 2D character, or a 3D character. That's another thing that anybody would be able to do. RPG Blaster, at which time the official stream? This is an unofficial AmalgamAsh only stream. And actually, it's about over. But there's no stream that I know of. I'll be hopping off of here to go watch the Nintendo Direct, though, it's here in about 4 minutes. I've got time for another one. A few questions from Paul Roti. Will it be possible to make an invisible wall? Oh, I know this person. To block the player movement. You can do that in Smile Game Builder, so of course the answer absolutely will be yes. Will there be a way to prevent the camera to follow the player, for example, next to the border of the map? And we can do that as well. So yes, does the jump command let the player jump on props assets like fences and rocks? Can we customize the height of the jumps? Here we go. That method of asking the question, does it force them into a corner? The developer can create an invisible wall of any size. They can also control the camera so that it does not follow the player. So yeses to those, and the height of the jump and the speed of the fall can be customized by simply changing the values. You can jump in Bakin. You can use Bakin and make jumps in your game. If you want to jump on a near vertical wall or fence, it would be possible by creating such a movement event. The height of the jump and the speed of the fall. That is the perfect question to end the stream on. Companion Wolf, I have the day off on release day, so guess what I'm gonna do? Gee. Do I get 3 guesses? And the first 2 do not count. I understand, absolutely. I might even live stream just playing around with the tool. I'm very, very excited. What day is that on? I'm off that day as well. Oh, yes, I'm off that day. Actually, October 3rd is my anniversary. I guess October 4th. I'll make videos October 4th. You go on ahead, Mr. Wolf. Kidding. There will be plenty of things to do. But that there, I love that. Confirmed jumps, August 29. That was 2 weeks ago. But jumps are confirmed. I gotta go watch Nintendo Direct. I want to thank everybody for popping into the stream. Thank you very much for joining me. I had a lot of fun chit-chatting, talking back and forth with people while I looked at these amazing things for Bakin. I'd like to do this again soon, maybe? But maybe not today, since I have other things I have to get taken care of today. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me, and please look forward to Bakin. And again, I guess I can't stress this enough. If you've got anything you need to provide them feedback on, just let them know what your wishes are. Give them examples if you can, and tell them how badly you want feature A, B, or C. Look for the question that you want to ask and see if somebody's already asked it. You might have a very pleasantly surprised answer of yes, you can do that, or you will be able to do that. And that's it. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, like the videos, and all that good YouTube stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow. Actually, a little bit later today, because I do have a video scheduled for a little bit later today for you HeroQuest fans. Until next time, bye for now.